Welcome to the Jenna Banks Show. I'm your host, Jenna Banks, and I am here to help provide you with some tips, tools, and expert advice to help you live life to your very fullest potential. Today, we're going to talk about the journey to wellness and what it's like to come from a place of deep, dark depression into a place of wellness and well-being and passion. My guest today is Audrey Rose, and she is a motivational speaker and a lifestyle mentor. And she's also a nurse who works really long 12-hour days with COVID patients. And she's been doing that since the beginning of COVID. But she's turned her struggles into pursuit to live life full of passion. She teaches others how to create a life that they're excited to wake up for. Her journey through depression and resulting love for helping others through this journey has led her to create the Ready to Rise podcast, which is an online wellness community. And she also has her one-on-one mentoring programs. Audrey Rose, welcome to the show. So nice to have you here today.
I'm so excited to be on your show finally. This is so fun.
I know, finally, right? I was on your show, what was it, like a few months ago?
A while ago, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So exciting.
So exciting because I really feel like I want to pick up this conversation where we left off last time. Actually, that part of the conversation was not recorded. And so I thought it would be really great to just kind of pick it up, but have it recorded because your journey from where you've come from and where you are today is so inspiring. And I feel like there's so many others out there that probably who might even right now be in a place where you were back when you first started your journey, when you were at like the bottom, of where you were. And I don't know, I would just feel like we should shed some light on that today.
Yeah, I would love to.
I would love that.
So I can start kind of back where it all started. Honestly, I think a lot of us, especially as women, struggle with, anxiety and depression and all of that. But I don't think that we all point it out, or we maybe suppress it because society tells us, we have to go do dishes or raise children or whatever. And so it's like, we don't have time for that. So I think growing up, I struggled a lot with those feelings, but didn't know how. And I think also a lot of people, their parents will oftentimes kind of, teach them to shove those feelings down.
Right.
And that's pretty normal in our culture these days. So that definitely happened to me. And I learned how to get out of touch with my emotions and how to maybe just work really hard and distract myself or things like that. And then so one of the patterns that I got into that, and I love talking to you about is definitely some pretty toxic relationships with significant others.
Yes, I've been there so many times. Yes.
So I definitely was looking for some kind of, connection or whatever it was, to feel better. And I would search for that through relationships, and they ended up, of course, when you're searching in that way, you're going to find toxic people.
Absolutely.
And I was in a relationship that I thought was good. It felt good at the time, kind of, compared to maybe because I didn't know enough back then.
Right.
And I was in my late 20s. I was finishing nursing school. I was so busy and had so much going on. And he seemed like he complemented my life well. And then I started to kind of realize, through friends or through things we're learning in nursing school, is he verbally abusive? This might actually be happening. I'm not feeling great about myself in this relationship anymore. And I started to pay attention to that and just kind of trying to figure out what was going on. And then one day, there's so much to the story, but the trigger was I found an engagement ring in his drawer. And
oh, God.
And I was like, shit.
Yeah.
This is okay. And I was like, I can't do it. I got to go.
Yeah.
And I remember calling my friend. Oh my goodness. I called my two really close friends and I was like, you guys, I need to express this while I'm in the moment. And while I'm actually feeling this, how scared I am and how I don't want to follow through with this, and I need your help now
Oh,
to
thank
get me out of this
goodness you
situation.
did that. Thank goodness.
Because,
Yeah.
as you'll have these moments of kind of clarity while you're on your healing journey. And this was obviously the very beginning. And I was like, let me just take this one moment of clarity and run with this and just get some help right now. And I mean, I didn't realize at the time that it wasn't a relationship that was really serving me, but I did know I didn't feel great.
You didn't feel good. That's always the key for me when I don't feel right, when I don't feel good, when I don't feel connected with myself, when I can't feel my energy. That's always my sign, even when I don't have answers, because I usually don't at the time.
Yeah, exactly. So you're like, I guess I just have to go. And I remember talking to my grandma about it. This was the best advice. And she's like, I was just like telling her, I'm like, I don't know why I would leave. Like, is there a reason to? And she's like, well, you're not happy. And that is a reason.
That is absolutely a reason.
Like,
anyone listening right now, you've got to know when you're not happy, there's a reason for that. You have to listen to it and dig deeper.
Change.
Yeah, absolutely.
So fast forward to moving out and moving into an apartment on my own and, all the things.
Well, do you mind, Audrey, if we back up for a second? Because I'd really love to learn a little bit more. I think we touched on it last time you and I talked, just a little bit more about what you were feeling. You weren't feeling right.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like you had were you in a depression? Were you weren't you mentioning something like you couldn't get out of bed for a while?
Yeah, that's where I'm getting to. So that all happened once I moved here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Wait, so this is after the breakup?
Yeah.
No, your
so
hair
I was
beautiful.
Like, thanks. I'm just not feeling the angle or something. Yeah. So fast forward to moving out onto my own is I just hit this massive depression once I started living on my own. And it was, I think, a combination of it being the first time that I had really lived on my own and just kind of like learning to deal with these feelings of that flood of feelings of everything I wasn't dealing with the past few years. And I was trying to hide in this relationship and trying to hide in work and school and all of that. And I finally just finally hit that wall, that breakdown. And I was just in bed. I mean, I wasn't getting out of bed. It was so bad. I wasn't suicidal. There wasn't anything, too extreme there, but not taking care of myself at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I would, in nursing, sometimes it's easy to hide, or maybe a job like that where you're not getting dressed up in, business attire. You don't have to have your hair down or looking nice. It's easy as a nurse. I just throw that hair up in a bun and just throw on some scrubs, go to work. And that was it. I wouldn't get groceries unless it was like maybe on my way home from work, things like that. And so it was so hard, but I guess I didn't realize what was happening at the time.
Right. It's hard to know when you're in it, right?
Yeah.
What were you thinking about the relationship? Were you trying to figure out, did I do the right thing? Like, what was going through your head? Do you remember?
It's hard to remember everything, but definitely that feeling of feeling very lonely and being like, what am I doing now? Like, now what? What if, I don't find somebody else? Or what if, what do I do now? Like, I'm lost and I'm just alone.
Yeah.
And looking back, I mean, now that I've done a lot of healing, it stems from that feeling of feeling lonely because you're not connected to yourself. And I was so lost. I wasn't connected to myself. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. Oh my God, this is so embarrassing to admit, but I mean, there were nights when I would be drinking tequila, hardcore, alone, have the TV on and the radio on because I just couldn't. I felt so lonely.
Yeah.
And I was going out. Sometimes I'd go out with friends, but not really, not until like later on after kind of that depression subsided. But I didn't realize how depressed I was. And so a friend of mine literally comes over and she like pulls me basically by the ear, showers me, takes me out to get lunch, like outside in the sunshine. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is what life should be like. Like, this is insane. And that kind of showed me a little bit. And then I'll never forget, I don't know how many weeks later, but I'm laying in bed and just sleeping in till probably 1 p.m. Like it was bad. And my dog, she jumps on me and she's just like licking my face and like pouncing on me and like, get up. And I'm like, oh my God, you know what? Not even just for myself. Like, it's not even just the fact that I'm like neglecting myself. I am completely like changing her life because of my depression. Like, she needs to be out running around, enjoying the world, and I'm not giving her that. And so that day I got up, we went on a hike, this mountain that's close to me that's just beautiful. We go hike, and then this is really what started to change was I realized like, this is amazing. Like, I love this. I want to do this more often. And in their parking lot, it's like $10 or whatever to get in and park there. But they have this pass, like an annual pass, and you pay like $70 or something. And then it's unlimited for the year for all kinds of parks in this area. So then that's what I started doing. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to make a challenge for myself. I'm going to do a new place once a week. And within a year, I'm going to do all of these parks and hike at all of them with my dog. And
you're in Santa Rosa, you said, right? Yeah. So the parks there are so beautiful.
It's beautiful, like wine country, right? So like everything's just, it's gorgeous up here. And we have the beach, super close by. Yeah. So, oh my gosh.
So that's what kind of started it. You got out in nature.
Yeah, nature.
Yeah.
Nature was huge. And then because the thing is, when you're so depressed, it's like anybody, like, or nobody will be able to just glom onto all kinds of different healing techniques, if that makes sense. Like when you go from this severe depression, you won't be able to all of a sudden do like energy healing and reading books and therapy and yoga and all of those things right away. Yeah. And so it took me just finding one thing that I could do for myself on a continual basis. And then I was able to start going from there. So that was a few months of only just getting sunshine, getting outside, connecting with my dog. And then slowly I started to incorporate like, okay, I'll invite some friends and maybe that would help. Like if I'm not alone.
So this was a conscious decision. It wasn't like just a sudden, like natural thing that you did. It was like, I need to get myself out of this. How am I going to do it?
How am I going to do it? Exactly.
Okay.
And then seeing some friends, having some friends come hang out. And it's also a conscious decision to choose who you're hanging out with.
Oh God, yes.
That was a big thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I can't choose people who are also just going out and drinking and, doing all of that because that's not going to help me right now. And so I chose people who were just amazing to be around and very uplifting people and hung out with them. And then I found a therapist. And then from there, but it took probably a good 8 months maybe to start to get into this place of like where I am now, where I finally have like a good morning routine. And I'm finally like, working out, eating well, drinking water, not drinking too much alcohol, like all of that. Like these are all important things that you learn over time, like what will actually help you with anxiety and depression. And
did you ever go back? Or was it just bye-bye depression and that's it?
The thing with depression is you will always, always have that struggle. At least that's how I think of it. And I think most people still have the struggle. And so the thing with depression is, and I also get seasonal depression pretty bad.
What is that?
So seasonal is like as the season starts to change into wintertime and you have like less sunlight and things like that, you can just get so depressed over the wintertime. Yeah, because sunlight helps, like the vitamin D helps certain of our neurotransmitters and chemicals and all of that with depression. And then also just having the daylight to go out on a walk after work or something like that.
And it does get really cold in the winter over there too.
Yeah. And it's like not snowing here, but still it's like, I'm cold. I don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. to go do a workout. Like that doesn't sound good.
Now, what time you're a nurse. What time are you do you have early shifts?
Yeah. So I work 7 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. So now, and I realized like during that depression, I was like, man, I'm just wasting my life. Like I have to change. And so now my routine, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, sometimes 4, but 4:30 is good. And I do like a 45-minute workout. I drink, some water and some greens and all of that in the morning. meditate, do a little short burst of yoga, and then I always do my gratitude journaling every morning.
Every morning.
Every
Ooh,
morning.
can you tell me about your gratitude journaling? I would love to
Yeah.
hear more about that. And why is it important?
Oh, it's so good. So good. So I started by using Rachel Hollis has I forget what it stands for, but it's that STJ journal.
Okay.
It's good. Where she has you list out like 5 things you're grateful for, and then it's 10 things that you're trying to like manifest into your life, basically. So you're writing them down like as if it already happened. But the gratitude is amazing because at first you struggle. It's like, what am I grateful for? Okay, I guess the roof over my head and the running water. And
Sure.
when you start to like think about these things, you start to actually think about them. Like, oh, it sounded cheesy at first to just write that down, but no, I am so thankful for the running water that comes to my place.
It's a big
like,
deal.
this is amazing.
Some places don't have it. Yeah.
And then you start to look at things, and then as you start getting your mind into this, like, what am I going to write in my journal today? Or what am I going to put down, in the morning for my gratitude list? And it's like you start training your brain to see the good. And as you start to see more and more of the good, it helps lift you out of that place of that, anger or, sadness or any of that, because you're starting to see the amazing things that this life has to offer us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Even deeper than that, I've come to learn through like Joe Dispenza, which I'm not deeply studied on his work, but I'm learning more about it these days. And recently I read a post on his Instagram page about how there was this study where they actually observed certain genes in the body or cells in the body that can be turned on or off depending on certain states that you're in. So they did this study of people who were just in their everyday state and in these types of the cells that help you stay healthy and immune. They tested those, and then they tested it with those who were in this state of gratitude 3 times a day. I think it was like 10 minutes a day or something like that. Please don't quote me on it. I'm just have the worst memory, but something like that. But anyways, but it was 3 times a day, and then they did the testing again. And for those that practiced the gratitude practice through the day, had 50% more of these genes or cells turn on that are healthy cells that help you stay immune, help you heal, just from practicing gratitude. So there's actually scientific benefit for our bodies beyond just the emotional benefits.
See, that's what I love so much about all of these things that I've began to learn more about on this healing journey that I've been on, is just how much even though I'm a nurse, I'm very into holistic health right now, and just how much like simple things like gratitude or eating, less processed foods, working out, like all of that, how good it makes you feel. I actually did sober, I don't even know what you call it anymore. It started as sober summer last year, and then it went into the whole COVID season that we had. And so recently I went out and I had a couple of drinks and I felt like shit the next day, and not just hungover shit. Like, I mean, like depressed and just down. And it's like, it just also made me realize, like, when you're taking such good care of yourself, then even when you just do a couple of slight things, like, you really can see the difference.
You notice the difference. But you know what? I do too. And it doesn't stop me from doing it.
Right. It's good to have fun too. It's good to have fun too.
Yeah.
But it's amazing.
It really is. And ideally, I mean, I've gotten to the point where I just don't do it unless I consciously make the decision that I know I might pay a price, but let's try and prep and make it mitigate that bad feeling as much as possible. I started doing these hydration packs recently.
Oh, cool.
Where you can take, you can get them on like Amazon, and then you just take it before you go out with your friends or go out to a restaurant to drink. And then that way, because my biggest issue is I don't hydrate enough while I'm drinking alcohol. Yeah. And so that takes its toll on the body. So if you can hydrate beforehand, it kind of helps to mitigate the issue. And I do feel better the next day, but not that that's like a get out of jail free card at all.
I know. Right. But I like the thought behind like just making that conscious decision. Like same thing with, skipping a workout or eating something that's very processed or whatever. It's like, or skipping gratitude one morning. It's a conscious decision.
That's right.
To make that. And then that way, like, I might not feel as good the next day, but I mean, I'm not going to beat myself up because I made that choice, and that's
Yep.
okay.
Well, what's amazing about your journey, Audrey, is that where you are now is you are a wellness mentor for people.
Yeah.
You're doing speaking now on this topic. I mean, you are, yes, you're on your journey. Like I very much am on my journey as well, but you're also helping others on their journey too. And I think that's amazing. That must lift you up in all kinds of ways as well.
It does. It makes me so happy. Thank you. I literally 3 years ago or 4-ish years ago, I couldn't find anything that resonated with me.
Yeah.
All the books written about this and all the podcasts I listened to, and podcasts were still pretty new back then, but everything was just people who were 10 years out of their journey, and listening to these people, it was very inspiring and it was great. And I learned a few things from them, but I was like, no, I need somebody who's here now who can tell me what to do. Like, what do I do in this moment? Like, I feel like shit and I want to, like just lay in bed all day. I was like, what can you tell me now?
Right.
And so that's why I'm so thankful to be so in touch with my journey and, have those feelings and remember how it feels so that I can help people now in that moment, like get up from where they're at now.
Yeah, because you're not so distanced from what it feels like to have been there. So absolutely, it makes so much sense. So you have your podcast, which is the Ready to Rise podcast, right? Tell us a little bit more about that.
So that's part of what I wanted to do was, instead of having these people that are 10 years out of their journey, I was like, you know what? No, I need to start recording about this now. And it was the scariest decision ever. But I'm so glad I did it. I've already received so many messages and all kinds of things from people that are inspired and people that I've been able to help just through the podcast.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it was really scary to start that and to tell people where I was at and, that I'm still on my journey and I'm still learning things, but here's what I have learned and maybe it will help you.
It's very vulnerable.
So if
you put yourself out there and that's very scary at first, I'm sure.
Like, oh gosh, I had, I had a coworker not too long ago message me and he's like, oh, I'm listening to your podcast.
Oh my
God. Now I know. Now I know about your ex and why you say those things about him.
So true. Hey, listen, I get it. Like the poor people who date me have to deal with the fact that every once in a while I will pull an excerpt out of our text conversation and put it out there. Oh, I do ask, hey, do you mind? But still, sorry, that kind of goes with the territory now.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. It's like, okay, it's out there. I know I was recently updating a dating profile or whatever. And I put something about being a podcast host on there. And then all the messages were like, what's the name of it? And I was like, never mind.
Never mind. Take it off. Exactly. It's a need to know basis. As a matter of fact, I'm not on Instagram at all. Don't follow me.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not my name.
Yeah. Nope.
But I am seriously so thankful to be able to help people and touch people. And I wanted to start that podcast early while I was still figuring things out. And, I think we always are still figuring things out.
Absolutely, we are.
Early on so that people could get that raw content of what's happening.
How long ago did you start your podcast?
Oh, it's probably been 8 months or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, how do you feel about it now? Is it still scary or are you over?
No, I'm just hey, guess what? I used to spend, oh my gosh, I think all of us are like this. Or, at the beginning, it's you spend hours and hours editing every little thing and you want it to be so such a perfectionist. And now I'm just you know what? They just need the content. It's fine.
So true.
And I haven't, heard anything about that from anyone.
No one's going to say anything. No one's paying attention to the details. Fine. Actually, I know you're all about limiting, conquering your limiting beliefs. Perfectionism is a limiting belief. It's the fear that in order to be accepted, we have to be perfect. And that's just not true.
Not true. Yeah. And that all comes from that childhood. I'm starting to learn a little bit more actually about the inner child work, which is so interesting.
So interesting. Oh yeah, definitely.
It's amazing. And it's, just kind of getting over those limiting beliefs because we pick all that up from childhood. And it's
We
something
do.
as stupid as like a teacher, looking at a picture you drew and like not having time to like really look at it and being
Right.
dismissive. And then you're like, it wasn't good enough. Well, now my podcast has to have like 3 hours of editing before I can release it.
It's crazy to think that a belief you form as in your childhood, you take that with you, and it comes in many different forms as an adult, but it's the same lingering belief. It's crazy, really.
Yeah.
I had that same fear of public speaking, and I tried to figure out, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And it certainly was something that happened in grade school, where I remember getting all red, speaking in front of a class. And, now you have that fear, that permanent fear. Well, it's not permanent, but if you don't address it, it stays as a permanent fear that if ever I get in front of a group of people, I'm going to turn red. I'm going to flop tremendously, and I'm just going to be embarrassed.
Yeah. And it's not true. It's like, then you look back and it's like, oh, it hasn't even happened since grade school. So like, what's going on?
Yeah. It's crazy. So I would love to, we're talking about wellness today. I have to admit to you, I was just diagnosed with COVID.
Wow.
Literally today. I feel great only because I got tested on Monday. Today is Friday.
Okay. Wow, nice.
And I had the symptoms that started the Friday before. So last Friday is when I started feeling what I thought was a cold, a lot of just some sinus stuff. And then I started sneezing. And then Saturday was just sneezing all day, tons and tons of sneezing. And then was it? Actually, no, I guess it would have been Thursday when the symptoms came on, because it was Friday with the sneezing, and then Saturday, a lot of congestion and all of that. And then Sunday, I felt like I was getting better. And then I realized I didn't have any smell or taste.
No.
And that's when I was like, oh, that's never happened to me before. At first I thought it was just a cold, but now I'm wondering. And so Monday I went and got a test right away, and they said, oh, you'll have the results in 2 days. Well, I just got it today, which is 5 days later. And it was positive. Of course, I'm feeling so much better now, but I stayed isolated, just in case, just to be safe.
Yeah, smart. A lot of people are not doing that. It's just crazy to me.
I don't understand. If you lose your taste or smell, chances are you've had COVID. Like,
I had I can't just, to be careful what I say, but I had somebody recently who went out to all kinds of parties and all kinds of places, and
knowing they had it.
Well, they were waiting for the results. But
no, that's not okay. I say, guilty until proven innocent when it comes to COVID, right?
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, that's good. You had very mild symptoms. Were you vaccinated?
Yes, I was, which surprised me that I had the symptoms I had being vaccinated. Yeah. So that is good for people to know that now that this is kind of new territory where it's like, okay, if you do get it and you are vaccinated, what could happen? And I'm a very healthy person. I work out regularly. I eat very, very well. And yet still I had some, I wouldn't say severe symptoms. It was like a pretty bad cold though. I mean, I was super tired, didn't feel like doing anything for 4 days, and had, pretty severe cold symptoms. So it'll get you still.
Yeah, exactly. And thank goodness, I can't talk too much about all that, but thank goodness for the vaccine, because even just patients that I'm seeing vaccinated, it's usually a little cold like that, but the unvaccinated people, they are so sick. It's really hard to see.
Oh, I'm sorry. And you've been dealing with this since the beginning of COVID.
Yeah, right? It seems like it's been, I think it's 1.5 years now we're going on, but it just feels like it's been forever. And that's another thing too, speaking of wellness, is even just people, working right now, especially in healthcare. I'm still burnt out from the last time. We keep all the nurses, we keep calling it the last time and now this time or whatever, because we had a small, a little lull in between where we had COVID patients, but they weren't, we didn't have as many. But now, our numbers up here in California are comparable to Thanksgiving time, which last year, which was, and that was our bad surge. So the numbers are comparable, and they're young people that are getting sick. And so it's hard.
So you're seeing the difference now? Are you watching? So you see a noticeable difference in the age group?
Yeah, noticeable difference in the age group. Definitely younger people that are getting sick. Even getting intubated, people my age. And it's I was like, oh my gosh, because a lot of us are going out again, right? Because we're vaccinated. So it feels fine to go out and, go to a bar or go somewhere, but you can still get sick.
Girl, that's how I got it. I mean, I was like, woo woo, I'm going to live it up.
Yeah.
This was like 2 weekends ago.
It's been so long.
Yeah. And I was like, hey, where if there's no COVID existing in this place, I'm going to pretend like it doesn't exist.
Yes.
And I got hit with it. So, yeah.
But at least, like, I have to say, like, at least it was like that, because there's people around here, that are going out like that and getting, because they're not vaccinated. And so they're just getting so sick.
So are those the ones that are getting the really sick, or the unvaccinated only? Because you're not seeing that with the vaccinated patients.
I see some vaccinated people that are getting pretty sick, but not to the extent as people without the vaccine. Or people that are not vaccinated are getting it's bad.
This is crazy. I did not think we'd be in a situation like this right
now.
I
know. And I think, like, all of us nurses, a lot of us were just, we are still burnt out from the last time. My schedule, honestly, I think I'm working more this time around because of that reason versus
they're not
last
prepared.
time.
We're not prepared.
We weren't prepared. And a lot of, there's like a nursing shortage up here, at least. I don't know about the US, but California seems to be having some kind of nursing shortage where there's not as many people wanting to work right now, or people are on leave, or maybe have left the profession, just because COVID was so hard on a lot of us. And so I think, and I'm speaking for up here because we didn't have it as bad as the East Coast,
Right.
So,
California was much stricter.
Yeah. So I don't know how all those nurses are feeling over there. If I went through that, I would probably have left too.
So I have a friend who's a nurse, and I know she's been posting about the fact that people need to still stay safe, that the hospitals are getting overwhelmed again, but I haven't seen her because she's working so much. But I'd really love to have a chat with her and find out how things are for her over here. But I do hear it's getting pretty bad again. And I'm hearing of cases happening like mine, breakthrough cases, a lot now. It just started happening in the past month or month and a half, where I'm hearing about it happening a lot. So
yeah, which makes sense. If you think about it, like, and I'm not a doctor, but if you think about it, like the flu shot, right?
Yeah.
Then you get those breakthrough flu cases too. And like that kind of stuff happens. But yeah, I think just the biggest thing right now is to continue taking care of ourselves. I think a lot of us noticed that, like, the beginning of COVID, when it first started, like, I was taking like my mushroom tea every morning and drinking like greens like 3 times a day and like all these supplements. And I've definitely like tapered that off a bit, but I think it's a good reminder to like always take care of ourselves.
So what are some things that you would recommend that we put in our bodies, and other wellness tips that might help us kind of boost our immune system?
I think, like, I can't speak to COVID in general, but I think just things that I do personally, I know zinc is really good. Like zinc, vitamin D, vitamin C, I think they were also saying. And then I do like a mushroom supplement. So I do turkey tail mushroom.
So interesting that you're mentioning this. The universe must want me to start mushroom supplements. Because I just started hearing about these different mushroom extractions, the tinctures and things like that is supposed to really help you with endurance and all kinds of other things. So you recommend the mushrooms? Huh?
Yeah. So I also, at the beginning of COVID last year, I had some really weird GI symptoms come up. And so I really do like anti-inflammatory now. And so I cut out coffee and I started doing mud water, and I love mud water.
What the heck is like mud water?
Mushroom. It's so good. So it's just like a mushroom. You could call it tea, or it's almost like instant coffee where it's like ground already. And it tastes pretty earthy, but I love it. It gives you that sustained energy, and it just feels so good. But that's an example of like a mushroom type drink that you can do. And because it's just like, I couldn't quit. I was like, I can't quit coffee. Like, that's my ritual in the morning.
That's my ritual
I have my
too.
mug, and I need that. So now I do the mushroom stuff in the morning, and I always add the turkey tail mushrooms separate. So I always add like a scoop of that in, and then do like a little bit of like a cream or something like that with it.
So does it help suffice for that warm drink thing in the morning? Because I have the same issue, and I know my 2 cups of coffee with cream and sugar are so bad.
Yeah. I add like a little bit of cream to it. I think most people don't need to, because it doesn't have like that acidity or anything, but like that's like the ritual, So I still do that. And it does have that earthy taste, so that helps. And yeah, it definitely gives you that, that morning feeling, right? And it
Yeah,
feels,
just
I
the
do that with,
routine, the ritual, the
mhm.
warm beverage.
Yep,
Yes.
I do that while I'm doing my gratitude journal every morning.
Okay.
And
Like
then,
it.
yeah, so that helps. And then the supplements, and then I think greens, like I love the Organifi greens. I
Mm.
mix that in sometimes twice or three times a day into into a drink, whatever I'm,
Okay.
drinking. It's not
Okay.
bad at all. I mean, even just with some ice water,
Have
it's
you
not
had
bad.
COVID, by the way? Have
No.
you? No. Okay.
So
And you got, it's amazing though. You're working with COVID
I
patients
know.
like almost every day.
Yeah, and
And
last year, I mean, we didn't protect ourselves the same way we are this time around. This
okay.
time we're being really strict.
Okay.
Because this Delta variant is so much, I call it like sticky, like it's just seems like it's stickier. It's easy to get.
Yeah.
But last year, yeah, we were just wearing regular masks
Mm,
most of the time and
mm.
just
That's amazing.
we're
Like my
blessed.
bad for going out and getting it the other day,
I
the other
know,
weekend,
right?
because here you are amongst all these COVID patients. You don't get
I
it.
know.
And I'm like,
But
woohoo. And I get
but
it.
it's the mask. Like seriously, a
Yeah.
mask, like even just a little mask, like it protects so much.
Yeah.
But, of course we're all going to go out and go do things now that things are opening up. And,
Mhm.
I think the best thing is just to take some supplements and try to stay healthy. Like definitely, we're seeing it up here. The majority of the patients that are getting COVID are hyperglycemic and they have like high sugar levels.
Oh,
So I think really like watching what you eat, and if you're
yeah.
diabetic or pre-diabetic, like really taking care of yourself in that in
Mhm.
regards to the sugar.
That's a good
Um,
point. Yeah. So
mhm.
so the young people that are coming in, are they having issues with that too? Or are they generally
Generally
healthy?
healthy, but we've
Okay.
noticed a few are like kind of like pre-diabetic type. So
Mhm.
definitely, maybe a little overweight or like high sugar levels or just not eating really well. So that
Mhm.
kind of thing. But other than that, I mean, no diagnosis of anything.
So anything else that you could, recommend as far as like forgetting about COVID, but as far as like just on
Mhm.
your personal journey, your wellness journey,
Yeah.
besides your gratitude and your morning routines, anything else that you can advise has been like, because I know you've been, investigating other things
Yeah.
that
You know, a few things that I love. So I love Kundalini yoga.
I love
That's something I
Kundalini.
absolutely love.
Yes.
And then I think sound bath meditations, which those are hard to find right now because of COVID.
Yeah.
But if you have sound bath meditations open near you, that helps. And
What is
then,
it? What can you explain what that is?
oh, it's so good. So you lay down like it's like just a room full of like, people. Bring a yoga mat, you lay down on your mat, and then they're like the practitioners will do different type of like music, like crystal bowls, making those
Mhm.
kind of songs, or like a gong, or maybe rattles, or different types of music, and it helps like move the energy through your body, and it
Yeah.
just feels you come out just feeling so relaxed and
Oh,
so almost rejuvenated, and oh my
yeah.
gosh, it's so good.
Nice, nice. Could you have ever seen
Mhm.
yourself doing that 5 years ago?
Right? Exactly.
Right?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no. And I
yeah.
remember, oh my God, I remember when I was dating that guy that I was talking about earlier, like we had separate bathrooms for some reason. And so that was my only space that was like mine. And I started buying like crystals and like sage and stuff like that back then. And I'll never forget, like, I guess he just didn't see like all the stuff that was in, that I was accumulating. But I'll never forget one day I was like meditating in my bathroom. And I have like all my like salt lamps and all this stuff on. And then he like comes in there to see what I was doing. And it's just sage and everything's like pouring out the door. And then he just like was so like taken aback and just like, what are you doing? Like, what even is this? Like, this smells like crap. Like, get this out of here. Like, what is all this woo woo stuff? And I was
Yeah.
just like, in my head, like, that's probably when it started to click. Like, okay, I'm changing. I'm on some
Right.
kind of journey. I don't know that you are. And
Yeah.
this isn't going to work. But yeah, no, I mean, I remember kind of like that's when I kind of stopped hiding things that I was trying to learn about. But I remember hiding books and hiding all kinds of stuff that I was working on
Gosh.
and learning and crystals
Oh,
and now it's like I just don't even like if somebody comes over, I'm like, I'm not gonna hide like who I
yeah.
am and what I'm doing. And
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I did not see myself here using all these healing techniques and And I mean, Kundalini yoga, like I would have thought that people were crazy to do things like that 5 years ago. And now I'm like, as a nurse, right? As like a registered nurse, I'll be like at work and I'm like, oh, you just need to take some Bach flower. Like, oh, you should just rub some lavender on your feet before bed.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting though, how we as human beings want to judge things. It is just part of how we're raised.
Yeah.
And we have to stop and take a look at the things we're judging and decide where did that belief come from? Like, where did this belief come from? And is it serving me or not serving me? Because, to believe maybe a parent or an aunt or uncle or somebody around you mentioned, oh, that Kundalini stuff, that's woo woo.
Yeah, and that's so, the crazy hippies.
Right. And if you hear that in your years that you're forming your beliefs, especially what was the age of 0 to 7, if somebody said that in your environment, you take it on and it helps shape you. But we have to, think about the things that we come to believe and decide, is it something that I've chosen to believe for myself? Or was that just a product of my environment? Like, where did this belief come from? And consciously choose our beliefs. And we still have the ability to form new beliefs and change our beliefs. And that's the beautiful thing, is becoming aware, I think, of the beliefs that we have, and then consciously choose. And this is something that is still wasn't even in my awareness. I don't know about yours, Audrey, but for me, it didn't come into my awareness, I'd say, until not too long ago. Even the concept of limiting beliefs and questioning our beliefs, like, it's something we aren't raised to do.
No. And it's really interesting lately how I've kind of noticed people raising their children and like kind of bringing things like that up, or being very careful what they say to their kids, like keeping it kind of neutral. Or it's really interesting because I think that almost as a generation right now, we're kind of learning a lot of this, and we're learning how to maybe debunk the myths that we were taught growing up, or, get in there and really think about, like, why do I believe that? Why is that true for me?
Yeah.
Like, I just recorded a whole podcast episode on this that hasn't released yet, but I was just like ranting about this yesterday. I was like, this is just so important. Like, why do we think the way that we think?
Yeah. Yeah. It's societal programming. It's, cultural, it's governmental, it's national, it's all kinds of different things. And we're kind of built that way as human beings to be programmed. So I don't know if you've read the book, The Four Agreements yet. Have you read it?
That book.
So that's based on ancient Toltec wisdom, which was thousands of years ago. So it's not like it's a new thing to think that way, but it's a lost, it's a lost.
A good point. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lost art. I mean, over time we've morphed, and I can't even say mentally we've evolved because I think we've lost some wisdoms over time that we're maybe having to relearn again. But just how we think is everything. Really, right?
I like that. Going back to that, because we've learned. I mean, we've grown so much, like, technologically. But I think that mentally we fall short a lot of the time as far as getting in touch with ourselves, our emotions, and all of that. It's like we are programmed. Like, we're so programmed to constantly be, working, or we're like sitting on the computer doing something or whatever it is, and we're not thinking the way we used to.
Yeah. I just had an episode I filmed with D. Grant Smith where we talked about the programming of codependency. It's funny to think that I never thought of myself as codependent. Never, ever, ever. But actually, when editing my book, funny enough, one of my editors said to me, "Oh, yeah, that was a codependent book." And I was like, whoa, it's so interesting when you get a mirror, when you're telling your story and someone else kind of mirrors back something to you. And I was like, wait, like, I have to think about this. I was like, that was codependent. And so I never saw myself as being one to be codependent. But that's all I was ever modeled. Think about it. How can you do anything differently than what was modeled to you? Even though you think you're going to go do the opposite, you still, the baseline is still of what is what you only ever seen. And come to find out, as Dee Grant and I talked about in this episode that's coming up, actually, I just launched it today on YouTube, about how it's pop culture models that in everything, and all these romance stories, Superman, Friends, everything. It's like we're modeled this codependent model when it's not a healthy love. It's not based on two whole people coming together already whole. It's not based on having a strong sense of self-love.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, yeah, like looking at that versus I'm trying to think if there's any movies I've seen or any shows I've seen where, yeah, it's like two whole people coming together and like talking about like the relationship and like it's always like that plot twist, right? Where it's like, you know, the guy storms out and the woman like has to chase after him or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're right. We're totally taught that.
We are taught codependent relationships are what we're supposed to strive for. And to me, I mean, where's the romance movie about loving yourself?
Yeah, seriously.
Right? Like I would love to make a movie out of my book. I will. Yes. It's called I Love Me More. And it's all about, you know, this self-love and the importance of it. But I mean, after I finished writing it, I was like, my God, like this is just, we need this modeled in movies. We need to see the romance with ourselves first.
Totally. I have never seen a movie like that. You know, there's always the Hallmark ones, right? Where it's like the girl kind of like starts to, but then the guy like comes back and then, you know, then it's like, and then that teaches us to like maybe go do our own thing for a little while just so that we can get the guy back or whatever.
Right.
So yeah. You need to make a movie out of your book.
I think I do. That'll be a fun adventure. I love adventures, but yeah, no, it's look, self-love is everything. And also, you know, just again, how we believe, and it comes down to wellness too. And this is relative to what we're talking about, you know, just even Joe Dispenza goes into this so greatly. He is like, I want to study more of his work because that's his whole thing. You know, he as I recall, and again, my memory's horrible, but as I recall, he had some major spine injury, and they said he was going to have to. I think he wouldn't walk, and he was going to have this major surgery where there's like metal implanted in his spine and all of this stuff. And he set out to heal himself. And he did it in like, I think 6 weeks he was walking, no surgeries, nothing. To me, those stories are incredible. And he did it with the power of his mind, and what he believed and what he thought. He could have believed in what he was being told. And then if he believed that, then that would have been true. But because he chose to believe differently, and he chose to believe in the power of his mind and the chemistry that's in his body combined with the power of his mind to heal himself and make himself well, that he set out on that journey. And once he proved that and was the working model of that, then he was like, okay, thank you, God. I am now going to try and help heal the rest of, you know, everybody else through serving in this way and figuring it out and helping others, you know, enlighten others to the power of our minds and the power of our bodies. And again, don't quote me on that. This is Jenna.
See, like science has been starting to prove that too in ways. Like there's a lot of studies happening lately. Like I don't even think I can continue. Is it isometric like movements?
Epigenetics, neuroplasticity, all of that.
Neuroplasticity. Because like I think it's isometric movements with your like muscles. So if you're like just laying in bed and just tightening certain muscles and then visualizing yourself running or whatever it is, they've been doing studies on how that actually can like make you faster, for example, or whatever. But it's just so amazing. Like the mind has so much power.
So much. With science, they're proving that, you know, our minds do affect the stuff we can't see, the non-stuff in the air, and they've proven it. Science has proven it that, you know, the scientific observer actually affects the outcome of the test that's being done.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
I need to like get into whatever.
There's a test out there. After you might want to look it up. So like the split something test, which they were able to show that a particle behaves a certain way. If you're observing it, it behaves differently than if you aren't observing it.
Oh my gosh. This
Isn't
is
that
so
crazy?
amazing. Yeah.
So that right there in and of itself tells you we affect our environment, our mind, our thinking, our beliefs, our wishes, our desires, our intentions, all of that. And that's why when you go into yoga and you set your intentions, or you meditate, you set your intentions, or you journal, or you create your vision board, it actually is more powerful than you know. And that's why thoughts have power. And that's why words also have power. They're very, very, very powerful.
I'm starting to get into this. I have some interviews scheduled coming up for my podcast because I want to talk about manifesting. I'm so interested in manifesting right now, and it's just so interesting to me. So yeah, I can't wait to start learning more about that.
Fun. That's one of the fun things about having a podcast is you get to keep learning more with others. I love that too. Love it so much. Well, Audrey, it was such a pleasure to have you on today. Love seeing your beautiful face and your beautiful smile always. And
same to you.
Oh, thank you so much. And I hope to continue this dialogue going into our journeys going forward. And I can't wait to see where our paths take us over time. Audrey, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was such a pleasure to have you. As always, love our discussions so, so much. If you would like to connect with Audrey, I highly recommend downloading or subscribing to her podcast, which is called Ready to Rise. And you can also visit her website, which is audreyrosewellness.com. Again, that's audreyrosewellness.com. If you enjoyed the show today, please don't forget to subscribe. And if we're not connected on social media, I would absolutely love to connect with you on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or TikTok, wherever you like to connect. I'm on all of those applications. You'll find me at TikTok, at Instagram, and Facebook at Jenna Banks.0. And on LinkedIn, just type in my name, Jenna Banks. Also, I encourage you to sign up for my newsletter, which you'll find at my website, jenna-banks.com. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And remember, your love is your power. Until next time.